Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Justin here. We're going to be doing a review of the Poolmate Hydro 4 robotic pool cleaner. So if you're a pool owner and you haven't stumbled across these robotic pool cleaners before, all I can say is they're a total game changer. So rather than, if you've manually vacuumed your pool, you know what a pain it is. It's time consuming. Setting up the vacuum takes a while. And then actually vacuuming the pool, for a pool like this size, which isn't that big, can take me 20 minutes, 30 minutes maybe to vacuum a pool. So these take a little longer, maybe 2 or 3 hour cleaning cycles. But the beauty of it is you're not involved. So you drop this thing in, you push a button while this thing does all the work for you. The caveat to that is these are pretty expensive tools. I'd say the average consumer pool robot's going to cost you anywhere from $600 or $700 all the way up to $1,500 for some of the higher end units. And so this pool robot falls kind of at I would call this an entry level price range. I'm really excited for this video. We're going to kick it off by doing just a kind of general unboxing, give you kind of an overview of the system, and then we're going to do a head-to-head comparison against what I would consider probably one of the best-selling pool robots in this same price point category. So we'll put these things head-to-head, do kind of a battle of the bots, and then stick around towards the end, because the part I'm really looking forward to is we're going to take this thing into the shop, we're going to break out some tools, and we're going to take it apart, see how it works, see how it's built. So full disclosure, Chasing Technologies, who makes this robot, sent me this free of charge. However, I'm not sponsored by them. I'm not getting paid for this review. Pretty stoked that they sent me a free pool robot, but I'm going to do my best to kind of temper my enthusiasm and give you guys an honest review. If you haven't done so yet, please consider subscribing to the channel and like this video if you find this helpful. I know that literally every YouTuber out there says this, but it's your support that makes videos like this possible. You keep these channels up and running. So if you haven't done so, please consider subscribing to the channel. All right, let's get this thing open. All right, so we got, looks like some kind of sales support document. Nice package. There we go. There we go. All right, here it is. Oh, it's pretty light. So that's the power supply controller, nice. And then the motor cable. I've yet to see a pool robot that has a double-ended cable. That is it in the box, so that's everything. So after owning about four pool robots now, I think, I've learned a lot about these things, taken them apart, I've fixed a bunch of them. I think there's some features that I've come to really like in these pool robots. So one of the first ones that both of these kind of fall into this category is a top load basket. And so you can see here, both of these have a basket that lifts right at the top of the robot. Same with this Dolphin Nautilus. It's got this kind of lift out basket, a little crusty now. I really like that because when you pull these out of the pool, you set it on the deck, you don't have to flip it over to access the bottom and pull any kind of strainers or anything like that out to clean these cartridges out. These just lift right out. You can take the whole unit right over to a garden hose, dump all the debris out of the bottom, hose it off. So top loads have been a nice feature for me. Another thing I think I've learned that is a big want are dual brushes. And that is something that this Nautilus CC does not have. I think the Nautilus CC Plus does, but this only has one brush on the front. And so when it's going backwards, it's much less effective at picking up debris. The Hydro 4 does give you dual brushes. So we've got a brush up front, we've got a brush in the back. Both of these robots boast wall climbing capability. One thing that's unique about the Hydro 4 is that they have a supposedly patented Waterline traverse strategy. So it'll go up to the waterline and it just kind of slowly strafes across the top to clean the whole waterline. Whereas this robot, it'll run up, it kind of bounces back and forth, and then we'll shut off the pump and fall back to the bottom. And how it does that is due to another unique feature. This robot has dual centrifugal water pumps. And so almost I think every pool robot that I've taken apart or owned so far, I've seen has kind of an impeller style pump, whereas this has a centrifugal pump. Centrifugal pumps are kind of known in the engineering world to be pretty efficient. This one has dual centrifugal pumps. So you can see there's an outlet here and there's an outlet here. And so I think the way that it's going to strafe across the wall is when it climbs up the wall, it's going to shut off one of those pumps, and the exit thrust of one of the pumps is going to push it. It's going to shoot out of this side and kind of push it along the wall. So we'll check that out. But I'm really excited to take this apart and see how those pumps work. Another really big consideration, especially for someone like me, you can look around, you can see we have a ton of trees. It's having a pool robot that's got a large capacity basket is critical for my specific pool. I'm always running these things and I'm always pulling debris out. And so in the basket kind of capacity category, I'd say both these robots rank pretty similarly. These have big top load baskets, which is great. So the Hydro 4 has a 4.1 liter basket. They do offer a smaller filter as well. I can't remember the micron size of this filter, but this will be good for, leaves and pine straw, general debris, but they offer a finer mesh as well to capture, algae, fine sand, stuff like that. That can be purchased separately. Same goes for the Nautilus CC. It's got this basket, large basket, and then it just has one flap that drops down. You see it's full of trash right now. One thing I struggle with this particular basket is you get debris along this gasket, and if you don't do a good job of closing that, or hosing that off, you can't really close this to where it snaps. Then what happens if it doesn't snap? You put this into the robot, it springs open, and then it gets jammed in the robot, which is super frustrating to get that undone. So once it's in there, it's really hard to get that basket out if it was not properly clipped. Both of these robots offer pretty nice looking power supplies. It does have an app that comes with it, whereas this does not. And so I'm assuming when we open that app up, we're going to find a lot more features that we can use when we connect through to this power supply. One thing that's kind of exciting, I've never had before in a pool robot, is a remote control capability. So with your phone, you can actually use the app to steer the robot around the pool. All right, so while we're on the topic of power supplies, one other unique feature of the Hydro 4 that I wanted to mention is that they sell this in both a corded version, like I have here, and a battery operated version as well. Personally, I think I'm a big fan of corded power supplies. I've got a power supply in this pool shack back here that I can plug into, and so I don't have to worry about batteries charging, batteries wearing out. But for some people, you may find the battery option maybe more convenient. So one thing that'll be interesting to see is the pump on this Hydro 4. So there's actually, as I mentioned before, there's 2 centrifugal pumps, and they claim that it pumps something like almost 75 gallons a minute of water through this thing. I find that a little hard to believe. I mean, think of a 55-gallon drum. This is talking about pumping basically 1.5 of those every 60 seconds. So a little skeptical of that claim, but nonetheless, I think they're claiming that this is going to be a really powerful pump. This one has a pretty powerful pump, but the big thing that drives me nuts about this Nautilus, probably my biggest complaint I would say, is half the time it drives around the pool and the pump doesn't even run. And so it'll drive right over debris, it'll stir it up off the bottom, and then doesn't pick it up. Another thing I wanted to mention are the tracks. Another pet peeve I've had with this Nautilus CC is that when you put this in a pool full of debris like mine, the leaves and debris and everything get packed into this groove here. You can see how the belt is kind of starting to ride off the roller here. That's because there's leaves and a whole bunch of crap in this groove that gets packed in there. And so periodically, I'll go to pull this thing out of the pool and I'll find that the whole drive belt, the whole track is just sitting on the bottom of the pool and I have to go fish it out. The whole thing fell off because it just rode right off the roller. Then I'll have to go in through here with a screwdriver or something and clean that groove out. So that's kind of a big pain. Overall, for $700, this is an entry-level robot. But the best way to sum up my experience with this is really you get what you pay for performance. So it's fine, I guess. So the robot can have a great pump, it can have a great track system, great brushes, but many robots just struggle to cover the entire bottom of the pool. And so this just kind of wanders around aimlessly all over the pool. It doesn't seem like there's any rhyme or reason to its route. It just sort of randomly drives around. And so Poolmate advertises that the Hydro 4 includes this intelligent path system that basically optimizes its path around the pool, and it can improve coverage by up to 30%. That's what it says on the box. I've heard these kind of claims before, still a little skeptical of that, but we'll see how it does with coverage. So we're going to throw the drone up when we run these, and we'll be able to kind of do a time lapse and see just kind of how random these robots are in comparison, or if there really is kind of a rhyme or reason to how these things navigate the bottom of your pool. Another really unique thing that I just wanted to point out that I thought was really cool is that Chasing Technologies, which is the kind of the parent company of they're the people that make these Poolmate robots. They've got a lot of experience making underwater ROVs, and so they make ROVs, remotely operated vehicles, both for professional use and also kind of consumer grade underwater drones. And so their underwater robots do everything from kind of like search and rescue tasks to surveying the bottom of big cargo ships and stuff like that, surveying different infrastructure. So I'm really curious to see how the experience they've gained with designing and building those underwater robots, which is a really demanding, kind of challenging niche to work in, how that experience translates. All right, Finn's giving it a little sniff of approval. What do you think, buddy? You like the new robot? Huh? We are poolside here, and I've moved all of the gear closer to a power outlet so we can start kind of putting this together and trying it out. So we've got the power supply here. I'm going to go ahead and plug that in to 120 volts. Got this cable plugged into the power supply. We've got these two ends of the cable here that I've got to connect together. And like I said, this is kind of unique. Normally, you have one connection to the power supply, and then it is permanently attached to the robot. So to have this kind of intermediate connection is kind of interesting. Looks like it's built into this sort of float here. But looks so far like kind of quality looks really nice. I like that they use radial O-ring seals here. So instead of a face seal that relies on being compressed by the kind of the tightness of this nut, the seal is already made kind of independent of the nut compressing it together. So obviously you need that tension to screw these together, but it's already sealed up. It doesn't have to be squeezed really tight. So that's a good design feature. The cable is really nice. It's like almost like a silicone material or something. Only time will tell to see how it holds up, but nice long cable. All right, so just downloaded the app and got connected. Bluetooth connecting was pretty easy. However, there was a firmware update I had to do when I got it, but no big deal. I think that's probably to be expected. So I went ahead and I updated the firmware to the latest version. I'll show you some screen recordings of what the app looks like. It's actually pretty sweet. Looks like it's got tons of features. A lot of stuff in this one. You can change units from, gallons, feet. It shows you the temperature of your pool water, which is pretty cool. Different lighting modes, which will be kind of fun to play around with. A lot of functions on the app, including that cool remote control thing we'll try out. And then you can also set up different cleaning modes, so various times, but also like you want it to focus on the floor, the walls, the water line. And it looks like you can even set up custom cleaning features based on the shape of your pool, how much time you want it to spend, and kind of where you would like it to spend the most time. So that's kind of a neat thing. So the app is actually pretty legit. I'm kind of happy with that. So now that this thing's all set up, I think we're ready to splash it. I'm going to grab it here by the handle. It's got a nice carry handle, and it's also pretty lightweight. It's empty right now, but it's lighter, I think, than the Nautilus CC. So I'm just going to drop it in. There it goes. Just had to burp some air out of it. Now with the Dolphin, I've always had to let it sink to the bottom before firing it up, because it'll do this thing where it just kind of swims around on you and twists up the cable. So this isn't all the way sunk, but let's go ahead and try it. So I'm going to go ahead over to the power supply. And I guess I'll just hit that play button. Light turns green. And we'll see what it does. So there it goes. Let me give it some cable. It does swim around a little bit like the Dolphin. Let's see if it finds... Nice. Okay, so it found its way to the wall. That's really cool. My Dolphin, the Nautilus, would just kind of swim around in circles. And if you didn't shut it off, it could do that. Well, eventually your cable's all twisted up on you. So far so good. I'm going to let this run for a little while and just kind of observe it and see how it works. All right, it's approaching the water line. So it's doing its waterline scrub. Now let's see if it does that kind of sideways lateral thing. So it does. See how it kind of tilted to one side, and it's fired up only the what was that? Their starboard side pump there. And look at that, it's even grabbing leaves off the water line, which is pretty cool. So that's kind of a job normally for the skimmer. Yeah, and it's just using the thrust from that one motor to push itself along. It's down there cleaning. I'm checking out the app. I don't know if you can see my phone screen here, but you got a couple controls now. So you can end cleaning, you can pause the cleaning, or you can use this pickup thing. So has a little logo or whatever showing you that it's moving back and forth. I've never had a pickup feature, so let's try that. Let's hit pickup now. So if you can see this, I'm going to hit the pickup button. And it says, will the machine stop cleaning and dock automatically at the pool edge? I'm going to hit OK. And now it's going, the app is going into pickup mode. And so I guess this will just drive forwards until it hits the side of the wall. There it goes. And then once it hits a wall, it's going to drive up and present that front handle to you. So this is the second time I've tried this. So spoiler alert, I've already done this once. And one thing that I thought was pretty cool, I was thinking how practical would this pickup mode be, because it kind of could take a couple minutes for it to get to the edge of the pool. What's cool is once it gets to the top, it'll just stay there for like at least a minute. And so you could go off and do something else while this is heading towards the edge of the pool. And if it takes 2 minutes, you can go, empty your skimmers or whatever. And when you hear it run at the edge of the pool, you just walk up, grab it by this handle, and as soon as you pick it up, that light turns colors, the pump shut off, and it knows that you've removed it from the pool. And so it shuts down. That's pretty sweet. So now let's take a look at what kind of debris we picked up. So again, this is why I love these top load robots. So easy to empty. See in here, let me set this down. All right, there's a latch under here. Flip this up. Look at that. It's almost full of debris. So I'm gonna try to do this, with one hand here, holding the camera with the other. You probably didn't see that. I just dumped debris all over myself, but pretty easy to empty. All right, just for fun, we have the Poolmate running. Let's try the manual mode. So I'm in the app. I just clicked manual. Let's go take a look. There's like a little joystick feature, if you can see that on my screen. You can move the joystick down to steer it. Nice. That's pretty cool. So I guess I could try to pick up these leaves over here. Kind of full throttle forward. Nice, look at that. And it picked up all the leaves it ran over. They're a little skeptical of this remote control feature, but it's kind of handy. So if you do end up in like a frustrating spot where the robot's just not hitting the part of the pool that you need to get to, and you have people coming over, and instead of letting it run around for 30 minutes and hope it hits it, you could just drive over there and force it to get those spots. That's pretty sweet. All right, so the Hydro 4 is chugging away on its maiden voyage down there, but it's moving so slowly that I figured in order to get a better sense of what kind of ground it's covering, and more specifically like what sort of path is it taking as it finds its way through the pool, it'd be a cool idea to take a time lapse of this with my drone. So I don't know if you can see this on the camera up there, but I've got my drone hovered about 60 feet overhead, and we've got it recording, taking a picture basically every 4 seconds of the pool, so we can speed that video up later and see how this thing is moving around at the bottom of the pool. So I'm pretty stoked. I'll show this up next on the video. All right, so here's a time lapse of the Hydro 4 making its rounds. Quick disclaimer, a lot of the debris on the bottom of this pool in this shot were like larger twigs and stuff that I probably should have picked out with the net first, so it's just kind of knocking those around. But it does do a really good job of picking up most of the debris that it comes across. Path planning seems fairly random. I wouldn't say that there's a whole lot of rhyme or reason to it. This is a comparison with the Dolphin Nautilus CC. Same deal. It just sort of seems to drive around randomly. I will say the Hydro 4 does do a good job of covering most of the pool, and the Nautilus CC does twist up the cord sort of significantly after you run it a few times consecutively. All right, so one of the challenges I found with this thing where it struggles is when it approaches these stairs, I don't know if you can see that, but the handle on the front of the robot hits the coping around the edge of the stairs, and it'll just sit here and kind of spin and get stuck. And so it sits there, the tracks are spinning, the brush is spinning, but it's just not climbing the walls. And it'll do that for a little while. So one of the things I promised at the beginning of this video was to do sort of a teardown review where we take this into the shop, we take it apart, and we see how it's built. So this video is getting kind of long, and not everyone may be as technically curious, so I've decided to split that into a second video, which I'll link up here. So if you're interested in kind of seeing what the inside of this thing looks like and how it was built, please check out that video. But kind of in summary, I'm really happy with the construction of this thing. So it's very easy to work on. The materials look pretty solid. I'm a big fan of how modular everything was. That's probably the biggest takeaway I had. So A lot of pool robots, they will kind of group all of the expensive electronics, drive motors, gearboxes, everything into one watertight module. So if one part fails within inside that module, it's not serviceable. You've got to replace the entire expensive component. This, they've split everything up, which I think is really clever. So the pump motors, each motor independent, is a separate unit. The drive motor is a separate unit. The motor controller is all separate. And so conceivably, if one of those things were to fail, you could probably just get that one part and swap it out independently. Another thing that was cool to see was the use of brushless motors for these pump motors. So I've seen a lot of other pool robots use brushed DC motors. Those have a limited lifespan because of the brushes and the commutator can wear out. Brushless motors are much more efficient, much more powerful, and are known to last a really long time. So that was a cool feature to see. Overall, pretty impressed with the build quality of this thing. It was very easy to disassemble and looks like it was kind of made to last. So pretty pleased with that. Okay, so I've been using this robot now for a few weeks, and I think I'm ready to give you guys kind of like my general conclusion overall. I've had quite a bit of time to use this and get to know it. And kind of learn what I like about it and what I dislike. So I'll start with the good stuff. It definitely has powerful pumps and it does a great job of picking up debris, both in forwards and reverse. So the dual brushes really help this thing be effective at sucking up any trash that it happens to come across in the bottom of the pool. I'm also pretty pleased with just the general coverage. So I'm still not totally sure like how much rhyme or reason there is into the route planning, I guess you could say, that this thing takes when it finds its way around the pool. But I do find that it generally kind of covers every square inch of this thing whenever I come back. I will say that one exception is the stairs that I have. So I do have really small fiberglass stairs, and so I don't know that I've ever had a pool robot that's been able to clean those stairs. But with the exception of the stairs, it does a good job of getting the entire bottom of the pool. Another thing that I really like about this is the ability to switch cleaning modes. So not often do I need the walls and waterline clean. Really, I'm just after getting, leaves and sticks and stuff like that off the bottom. And so you're able to, in the app, to select the floor only mode. They've got a 2-hour cycle. You can also program your own custom cycles. And I find that is great because I can, run this thing for 2 hours. It focuses only on the bottom of the pool where most of the debris is. And so I can quickly and efficiently pick up a bunch of stuff off the bottom. So the customizability is pretty cool with the cleaning modes. That kind of ties into the general sort of app forward vibe that this thing gives. So I will say that, this is a lot of the features that this robot has. In order to utilize those features, you have to do so using the phone app. And so if you're just someone that wants to keep it simple, you just want to walk up to the control box and hit go, you can do that. There is a button on the control box to hit, but you also don't get to take advantage of a lot of the cool features that this offers. So customizable cleaning cycles, programmable cleaning times, the pickup feature, even the remote control feature. That was actually a pretty cool thing I liked. So just keep that in mind that this is a pretty app heavy robot. A lot of the functionality is driven through their phone app. And so if you're not a big app person, you're going to be stuck with just that play button and their kind of default standard cleaning mode. Another thing that's really cool about this sort of app-based approach that I didn't think about at first is the ability to update the firmware. So what's neat about this is as Poolmate kind of comes up with software improvements for this robot, they can push that out in the firmware update. And so the capability of this thing can just keep getting better and better as time goes on. So similar to, updating the firmware on your iPhone, software update, Poolmate can keep releasing new capability that they can push out through the app, which is pretty cool. As an example, the firmware update I did when I first got this robot allowed it to sort of traverse across pool skimmers and stuff like that. So it sounds like they're constantly evaluating the performance of the device and then pushing out updates to address any shortfalls or improve the reliability and performance. That's kind of a cool feature. A common problem I've had with other pool robots is their kind of propensity to tangle up these cords. And so you drop it in the pool, you come back a few hours later, and your cord's all spun up. And so you've got to take the cord off and untwist it. I have yet to have this happen with this robot. And so it might get a loop or two, but I've run it multiple times consecutively and the cord doesn't get spun up. So if I had to sum this robot up kind of in a few sentences, I think that this really gives you a lot of high-end features and a lot of different kind of capability at a very entry-level price point. So as I mentioned before in the beginning of the video, this is basically it's priced in the entry-level range, so very basic pool robot capability. And for that, kind of in that price category, with this robot, you get dual pumps, you get dual brushes, you get a ton of features packed into the app, which is pretty cool. You get this LED light bar, which is kind of neat. So you get a lot of like kind of advanced, fancy features at an entry-level price point. All right, now as much as I could say that everything about this robot was perfect, it wasn't. So there were a couple little quirks that I wanted to point out. First of all, I mentioned previously that this gets stuck sometimes. And so because the handle sits kind of proud of these wheels, if you've got a pool that has a very like right angle transition from floor to wall, so it doesn't have kind of a curved transition, or if you've got, say, fiberglass stairs that kind of poke out from the wall a little bit, it's possible that this is going to get stuck on those features. It's not the end of the world. It just means that for a few minutes it's going to sit there and it's going to spin its wheels and not be cleaning. I wish they had brought this front handle back a little bit more just to give you more clearance from these front wheels, so those can hit the wall before the handle does. Another con that I found with this is that the control box and the app can sometimes be a little glitchy. So I did have a couple times where I'd push the play button on the control box and nothing would happen. So I had to unplug the control box and kind of reboot the system to sort of wake it back up. And then occasionally I would run into issues where the Bluetooth connection between my phone and the controller would drop. And usually it was very easy to hook back up, but just a little annoying that would kick out sometimes. A couple other little quirky features, like for instance, if you use that pickup mode to drive up to the edge of the pool, when you go to start your next cleaning cycle in the app, if you have to kind of reselect what cleaning mode you want. Otherwise, it's going to try to start the robot in pickup mode, and it just sort of sits there and doesn't do anything. The flip side, or the good news about that, is that all these are kind of like software bugs that new firmware updates can likely fix. So it's possible that Poolmate is going to keep releasing and improving their firmware and software in the device to kind of get through some of those bugs and clean those up. As far as debris pickup, I think this did a fantastic job. It has a really powerful suction motor, and so it does a really good job of picking up like these oak leaves that we have a lot of here, pine needles, things like that. However, one thing I did notice is that larger debris, it can be a little bit of a challenge. So if you can see here, we've got these two fairly small kind of basket intakes here, and so that just keeps this thing from picking up some of the larger sticks and stuff like that. And when I say sticks, I mean, twigs. I don't expect this to fish branches out of my pool. But with something like the Nautilus CC, it's got a single but larger kind of trap door on the bottom. And so it does pick up, fairly large debris. I also have a magnolia tree back here, which has these big leaves. I think this is going to struggle with those really large leaves. But if you're somebody that just has general dirt or small debris, this is going to be a great choice for you. If you have a lot of like really big leaves or like squirrels like I do that drop a bunch of twigs and stuff into the pool, you're going to be fishing those out with a net. Don't expect this to pick all that up. All right, so kind of final conclusion on the Poolmate Hydro 4. I think this thing is a really good bang for the buck. You get a lot of really advanced features at a very entry-level price point. Dual brushes, these really powerful centrifugal brushless motor pumps, really draw a lot of water through this thing. So it did a really good job of picking stuff up off the bottom of my pool. It did a really good job of like general coverage. So it, hit most of the places in my pool. I think this robot is going to really appeal to somebody that's kind of really into tech and gadgets. If you're somebody that just wants to drop this into the pool and hit a button, you're going to miss out. You can do that, but you're going to miss out on a lot of the cool advanced features that the app provides. All that said, these advanced features do come with a few little glitches, little quirks that I think Poolmate will probably work out within future firmware updates. But all in all, I think all of the sort of glitchiness that I ran into was very minor and pretty livable. If you're a pool owner and you have not yet discovered these robotic pool cleaners, all I can say is they are total game changers, highly recommended. They're going to save you a ton of time. If I were in the market for an entry-level price point pool cleaner like this, and that was between this or the Dolphin Nautilus CC, I think this would be my clear choice, just because it's got some more advanced features in kind of the same price range. So dual brushes, powerful motors, and the app control. So I hope you found this review helpful. If you did, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel for more content like this. I really hope that this review not only told you more about this specific pool cleaner, but it also helped shed some light on some of the factors and considerations that are important when you're choosing a pool cleaner for your pool. So really appreciate you watching. Thanks for tuning in. Look forward to making more content like this, so stay tuned, and we'll see you on the next video.